What's going on, Pinnacle students? I hope you're having a marvelous day, marvelous week. So we are continuing our series, Like Me. And, going into today, I had this friend in high school. And there was this moment in high school, I had this friend, we'll call him Ronnie Johnny. Ronnie Johnny was good looking, had made great grades, super nice dude, had a great girlfriend, was excellent at athletics, and still even a little nerdy and got along with us geeks. And I'd always been great friends with Ronnie Johnny, and it wasn't until high school that I started to not like Ronnie Johnny. And I would say mean things, stupid things, and just try to come up with all these reasons. And it wasn't until, sorry, Dean's barking. Anyways, and it wasn't until later on I realized that there was this one thing causing my feelings towards Ronnie Johnny, and that was jealousy. I was jealous. I was jealous of what was going on. He had so much, it seemed like everything in his life was going picture perfect, and I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that I was acing my academics. I was awful at sports. And there was a lot going on during that season of my life. Honest, a lot of the times the reason we feel a certain way, like when we feel anger towards someone else and it's that jealousy creeping in, we make snide remarks. We come up with excuses for why we feel this way about someone. Now, it's different, if someone's a total jerk to you for you to not like them. But if no one has done anything to you, but you don't like them, it might be some jealousy. Here's the comforting thing, okay? Jealousy is not something that is new. Jealousy has been around since the beginning of human history. And so much so, we have scripture dedicated to some very jealous moments. We're gonna look into a battle. There's this dude named Saul, and he became the leader of Israel, okay? And they were at war in a conflict with a group called the Philistines. And so, to set the stage here, it's a grand war battle. The Philistines are up on one hill, and the Israel's and Saul's army are up on another hill, and there's a great valley in between. We are looking at peak cinematic moment here. The Philistines had this excellent champion, warrior god, so to speak, like just a fable warrior that was super tall, super stout, and just knew how to kill some people. That dude's name was Goliath. And so here is Saul and the Israelites trying to figure out what to do next, because there's the Philistines with Goliath, and it's about to get real. So Saul's trying to figure out who is going to go face Goliath. And here comes in a guy named David. David was small, young, totally not equipped to take on Goliath. And Saul even tells him and says, David, Goliath has been a warrior since he was little. He is so much bigger, so much more capable, so much more powerful than you. But David has some courage, and he stands up and he goes and he faces Goliath. And David gets a slingshot and throws a rock and hits Goliath right in the forehead. And Goliath falls over and dies. Now, this is not a moment of jealousy about Goliath and David, but it's about what happens. From that moment, Saul looks at David in a whole new light. Saul looks at David and goes, this guy's got moxie, he's got courage, he can take it on. So Saul eventually promotes him, and David continues excelling at everything that gets thrown his way, and Saul continues this promotion on and on and on and on. And then there's this big celebration, and Saul has thousands of accreditations, but David has like tens of thousands. Saul is still the king, he's still the ruler of Israel, but David is more popular. David has more going his way than the king. And Saul is like, oh, well, the only thing that he can't take away from me is the kingdom of Israel because I rule it. That's all that's left. So from that point forward, Saul's really jealous, and he looks at David so differently. He begins to watch and stalk and sleuth to make sure that David doesn't take away the kingdom of Israel from Saul. Now, you're like, wow, that was a lot. My jealousy isn't about trying to overcome a kingdom, but we all face that jealousy. I mean, think how Saul felt. Think how jealous he was that he's the ruler of the kingdom. The only reason David is at where he is at is because Saul promoted him in the first place. So what do you think Saul feels like? And so much, like, let's look into 1 Samuel. This is how Saul felt. It says, when Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. The homie that you appointed, you're now afraid of because of how successful he is. Like, put your mind into that, man. Here's the deal. That eats Saul up. And anytime we face jealousy, it ruins a relationship and it starts to deteriorate and ruin our mind. See, and it changes our mind. Jealousy goes on and eventually it becomes the source of your feelings, the source of your unhappy feelings. And then that person that you're jealous of starts to become where your anger gets pointed to because you're unhappy, and all you can do is point a finger at that person and what's going on in their life. And so all of a sudden, we're not cool with them, they're not cool with us, and we just ain't cool all together because we're ate up with jealousy. So here is the question. What do we do about it? Dean, hey, stop. Shh, just a little bit longer, bud. Okay? Jealousy ends up making you feel like crap. You become very unhappy about yourself, and you start to compare yourself to not just the first person you were jealous of, but everyone. I call that the comparison trap or the comparison game. And I fall into it still to this day. I look at like, oh, what's going on over here? Oh, there's this friend that's accomplished this, this, and this, and this. And it's very different, and we fall into it all the time, and eventually we just become unhappy with ourselves. So what do we got to do about it? We have got to look and celebrate others. Celebrate the person that you're jealous of. Or we can word it this way. The more I celebrate others, the more I like me. And there's scriptural proof to this. Proverbs 14:30 says, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. What a great proverb that is. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots it to the bones. Rots it, or just ruins it from the inside out. I can't think of a better way to say it myself. Now, here's the thing. You might be like, oh, cool, Walker, that's an Old Testament, however thousands of whatever years ago. So step number one is to look at yourself. What in your life is worth celebrating? Now, this can be very difficult for some of us. For me, it is very difficult. I have a really hard time, but we have to look at what is a win for us. What can we celebrate? And then celebrate that, man. And it could be as simple as like, hey, you know what? I do nice things for people. I'm not a total jerk. Like, celebrate that, man. You're not a total jerk. High five. And then the second thing is to move towards the person that you're jealous of. And when I say that, I mean, go towards that human. Interact with them. Get to know them. Overcome that jealousy. Make friends with them. Make peace. Because see, what's going to happen is you're going to get to know them. You're going to celebrate their wins. And then your mind's going to start changing. And God's going to change you. It's going to change that relationship. And if you can overcome your jealousy towards that one person by celebrating and winning for them and for yourself, then that can happen anytime, anywhere. And your whole life is just going to change. And you will gain a much different perspective. So first, celebrate yourself. Write something down. If just one thing every day, that will make a change. If you do it every day, it'll make a change. Just one thing to celebrate. Hey, even if it's the same thing, write it down. And then move towards that person. And what I want you to do is just celebrate them. Lift them up. Because they need to be celebrated too. And you're going to find a lot of peace and happiness from celebrating and lifting other people up and not tearing them down. So friends, that's what I got for Like Me this week. Jealousy sucks. Let's overcome it. Let's work on celebrating everyone for what needs to be celebrated, and look at the difference that changes within us. Just as that proverb says, a heart at peace grows and gives the body life, but envy rots the bones. So remember that for this week ahead. We're going to throw out some application challenges in social media, so be sure you're following us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We'll put out lots of great stuff and have lots of great moments with you all, and I'll see you soon.